Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into some pretty fascinating territory today, exploring that kind of blurry line between relationships, social media, and how we connect with each other in this digital age.
Sounds intriguing. I'm ready to dive in.
So we've got this excerpt, right? And it tells the story of this couple who meet online.
Online dating success story. I'm all ears.
Well, that's the thing. It kind of is, at least at first, like their relationship just takes off. I mean, they fall in love, get married, the whole nine yards. And it all happens so fast. It makes you wonder, like, does the online world speed things up, in terms of intimacy and all that?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because online platforms, they can create this sense of accelerated connection, right? When you're
Yeah.
constantly sharing thoughts, feelings, it can feel very intense, very real even.
Yeah, exactly. But the question is, does that always translate into actual compatibility?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
And that's where this story gets really interesting. Because right after the wedding, things change. The husband's online presence, his whole demeanor online, shifts. He becomes distant, secretive even.
Hey, so it's not all sunshine and roses after the I do's. I'm sensing a plot twist here.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a twist. He's just not the same guy that our protagonist, the wife, fell for online.
It's a good reminder that online we often present a very specific version of ourselves, the best version, the curated version. And sometimes, well, there can be a gap between that online persona and the offline reality.
Right. And in a romantic relationship, especially one that starts online, that gap can be, well, a bit of a problem.
Definitely a big problem, potentially.
And for the wife in this story, it becomes this huge problem. Like every late night message, every time he's glued to his phone, it just eats away at her trust.
Yeah, I can see how that would be incredibly difficult, that constant uncertainty.
Totally. And it makes you think about how social media can kind of be a breeding ground for secrets, right?
Mm.
It gives you access to other connections, other temptations, and honestly, it can make infidelity a lot easier.
Unfortunately, that's very true. The accessibility and anonymity that the digital world offers, it can definitely complicate things.
So it's this crazy irony, right? The online world brought them together, but now it's tearing them apart.
It's like a digital double-edged sword, isn't it? The very thing that connected them becomes a catalyst for their downfall.
Exactly. And the excerpt talks about how their communication starts to reflect that downward spiral. They argue more, their words become, I don't know, sharper, less loving.
Well, that makes sense. Unresolved issues, that erosion of trust, it can damage any relationship. Doesn't matter how strong the initial feelings were. And that constant communication, the immediacy of the digital world, it can sometimes accelerate that breakdown.
It's like throwing fuel on the fire almost.
In a way, yeah. It's like you don't have the space to breathe, to process things.
This whole story, it's like a cautionary tale, right? It shows how complex relationships can be in our digital age.
Absolutely. It reminds us that we have to be mindful. Like, online platforms can be great for connecting with people, but we can't forget about the potential downside.
Right. We have to be aware of those pitfalls. So it makes you think, how can we use these tools to build strong, healthy relationships while protecting ourselves from, the potential for harm?
That's the question, isn't it? It's a balancing act for sure. Finding that sweet spot between connection and caution. Something for all of us to ponder, maybe.
I think so. It's definitely something to think about.
Definitely. A lot to unpack there.
Absolutely.
Well, that was quite a deep dive.
It really was.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. It was great chatting with you about this. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. See you next time.